Buying opportunities are entering the hobby at an accelerated rate, and collectors are asking the question, should I buy now or should I wait a bit longer? But before I get into that, in today's video, I'm actually gifting this Ceruledge illustration rare. Now to know if you won, if I do reply to your comment with this Lucario emoji, then well done, this Ceruledge is coming to you. And also, if you are new to the channel, I just want to say hi and welcome aboard. My name's Phil, and I've been running this Pokemon investing and collecting channel for about 2 years now. There's been a really awesome community that's been built. Definitely feel free to subscribe for consistent content. Though I'm definitely feeling that there will be a window of an opportunity because price reversals are something to keep an eye out on. Though whether or not they will happen and prices just start climbing again, it depends. Though I mean, it's anyone's guess right now, though check out what we're dealing with. All right, let's get this one, like price drop right now, Mega Charizard X. Yes, it is a new card. Yes, it is quite common for overhyped cards or cards that had a lot of hype to drop quite quickly. Though, with Prismatic Evolutions, they kept climbing up. With Destined Rivals, they had a little bit of a drop and then they started climbing a lot. This one's actually been a bit steeper than usual. So the Mega Charizard X was selling for $781. If I pull this in, I think the earliest price point we can get, here, there you go, 922 US. So it did have a high point where it was nearly $1,000 card. A lot of people thought this would be, matching the Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon price straight away. Though if I pull that into the month graph so we can get a clear picture, it was selling for $780 when Phantasmal Flames came out. And right now it's selling for $557. Definitely a big drop. Yes, it is a new card. Yes, it is very common for card prices to drop when they just release, though that is a pretty big drop considering where collectors thought the price would be for this card. The big reason for that is because the pull rates for Phantasmal Flames are far more generous than a lot of people expected. And of course, more of these Charizards are on the market than a lot of people thought. Still a very expensive card. It's still a massive decision to decide to buy this card. I wouldn't be too quick. I'm going to be interested to see over the next probably 6 months to a year where the grading percentage chances for this card are. I know in the Scarlet and Violet era, we had a lot of kind of difficulty with getting PSA 10s. For a lot of cards in the Scarlet and Violet era, it was like 30 to a 45% chance to get a PSA 10. I wonder if the Mega Evolution era is going to be different. Probably need a few more cards to get graded to get some good kind of data about this, but we'll have to see. But there you go, some pretty big price drops here. Will that continue to drop? Will be very interesting to see if this becomes like a $400 or a $350 card. I think a lot of people would begin to add this card to their collections if it did get to that price point. Right now, though, it is still very, very expensive. Moving on to the Lucario Mega Evolution Special Illustration Rare, was selling for $280 US. Right now, selling for $196. Definitely a price drop for this as well. Again, it is a new card. A lot of these Mega Evolution cards were hyped, but the thing is, as eras continue, something to remember, a lot of these Mega Evolution cards, like the Lucario, like the Gardevoir, as the era continues, as we get more artworks, as, there's more Pokemon, they get different styles, we might get another Mega Lucario artwork in the TCG. Hey, we might even get a Mega Lucario Z artwork. When these things happen, a lot of things change. A lot of people look back and they go, it's not that exciting as I thought it was. And that's why buying early into an era usually doesn't have the best long-term rewards I've noticed. For example, if you were buying like a lot of the chase cards from Scarlet and Violet base, a lot of those have dropped heaps, right? Same thing with Sword and Shield base. A lot of those cards from the Sword and Shield base set, they're technically some of the most cheapest cards you can get for how rare they are to pull, like the Gold Zamazenta and the Gold Zacian. This is kind of reminding me of that, this Mega Evolution base set, that it's kind of had, the Mega Lucario, the Mega Gardevoir. Yes, they're expensive now, but what's going to happen in a few months' time? Now, moving on to the Mega Dream EX. I know we're all excited for Ascended Heroes, but the Mega Dream High Class set is definitely interesting. Selling for $127 US, has had a very small drop to $109. But, that is still very expensive considering you only get 10 booster packs from this set as well. I think there's room for that to continue to drop, though I do know the hype around Mega Dream EX, the hype around Ascended Heroes is massive. It is going to be such an interesting time for Japanese Pokemon products, along with the English TCG coming into 2026, because it just depends where the hobby's going to go. Are more people entering right now, or are people leaving the hobby? At this stage, I still feel there's so many newcomers entering. I don't feel like it's just like, oh yeah, some people have left. I actually feel like the hobby is continuing to grow far quicker than a lot of people thought, and that's kind of playing out right now. Same thing when we look at the Mega Gengar though, this is very interesting to see from the Mega Dream EX, was selling for around $600 on the pre-release, right now selling for $450. So definitely still an expensive card, right? That is still super expensive, though I do feel there is a bit of room for that to come down. Now, since we are talking about Japanese Pokemon cards, it's actually the perfect moment to bring up today's video sponsor, Bai. Now, if you've ever tried buying Japanese products online, you'll know the pain of seeing that cannot ship to your country message pop up. Well, the problem actually disappears the moment you start using Bai. Bai is a Japanese proxy shopping service that lets you shop directly from Japan. On Bai, you can just easily search what you want, place the order, and they handle the rest. So for example, here I'm searching for Pokemon cards, and Bai instantly pulls results from major Japanese retailers. With new sets such as Mega Dream EX, along with new sets releasing in 2026, this becomes an incredibly useful tool to have. Bai covers a range of regions including North America, Oceania, and Europe. Now the best part is first-time users can get a 10% discount on their first order. You can find the link and details in the video's description. A big thanks to Bai for sponsoring today's video. Now let's jump back into the video. Now, the Mew from Paldean Fates is one that I've really been looking at lately. It has dropped a lot. So it was selling for $702. I think if I pull that into 6 months, I can see that better. There you go. It was selling, there you go, around $700 right there, $698. Right now selling for $515. Pretty big price drop, okay? This card is very, very loved. A lot of people want it in their collections. Though, is it a buying opportunity for this card? That's the thing that a lot of people are wondering right now, because it's still very expensive. It's still, like I said with that Charizard, right? You might be looking at it and saying, oh yeah, it's dropped from $900. You still need to fork out $550 USD to buy it. That is so much. It's a crazy amount of money, right? So don't think just because something's selling for $500 and it was selling for $700 before that it's cheap. It's not cheap. It's super, super expensive. There is such a small amount of people that, you know, have the confidence to still buy a card at 500 US. So it is something that we all have to monitor, a lot of these cards. I do think that there is room to drop, because I did speak about how many chase cards that have been releasing lately. And I sometimes feel like, whoa, do we just have too many chase cards? Though, you know, it just depends how it kind of continues as the years go on. Now, moving on to the Destined Rivals Mewtwo, very interesting card. There you go, $581 in October. Right now selling for $437. Pretty big price drop. Whether or not it's a big enough price drop for people to jump on it, I don't know. One thing I'm just a little bit thinking about, that there will come a time for price reversals. That's kind of something that we have to keep in mind, because if the price reversals kind of happen, I'm not sure if that's going to happen soon though, because yes, like I said, it's that there's just so many chase cards. And with that, there's so many different pockets that people can kind of purchase into. With the Sword and Shield era, I always felt like the chase cards were far more concentrated in terms of a few cards at the top. You know, it was Giratina V, it was the Moonbrew and a few of the evolutions, and then you had other chase cards after that that were expensive, but they were a little bit more attainable. Like the Lugia V, that was like once like $100 card, okay? So it was much more attainable than a lot of these cards. These cards, a lot of the chase cards in the Scarlet and Violet era, there is so many over $300. The Mewtwo here, the Mew Paldean Fates, the Charizard from 151. Because there's so many of these chase cards, I also feel it is hard for a lot of cards to exceed that $1,000 price range, which is good. But one thing I am thinking, when Moonbrew hit like 300 US, people couldn't believe it. Like, whoa, this is so insane. Right now, that's like a normal thing for a top chase card to be $300. One thing I'm thinking, is that going to be like $1,000 chase card soon? Because we've been so like just accustomed to these expensive prices. You know, with $1,000 cards just here, there, that's when the hobby is getting really, really expensive, and something kind of needs to shift to help it come down in price, because I really don't want to enter where, you know, all chase cards are $1,000 just because that's become the norm. Now also, if you are a big fan of Pokemon and you're looking for an awesome community, there's thousands of collectors to engage with on my channel's Discord. You can showcase your best TCG pulls, and you can even ask specific grading questions. The server invite is in the video's description. Now, the Reshiram from White Flare, really cool special illustration rare. Really love Black Bolt White Flare. I've really developed a huge appreciation for these sets. And one thing I've kind of mentioned there, but the thing about these sets that's so unique is because it was sandwiched between, you know, you had Destined Rivals right before these, and then the whole hype for the Mega Evolution era. I still feel a lot of people haven't had the kind of full experience of Black Bolt White Flare. And another reason for that is because they're separated sets. Even though they're together, it just feels like a lot of collectors weren't able to really get a good experience of this set. Though the Reshiram was selling for 198 US, right now selling for $178. Not a big price drop, but you know, at least it's not some crazy crazy, $600 chase card like a lot of cards are. And that's the thing. It's kind of so bizarre how Pokemon cards are working because, I'm looking at a $178 chase card and I'm thinking, oh, at least it's not $400-$500, which, that it's just so wild. The prices, man, like they've gotten so bananas and people just like, even me, I'm looking at that like, oh, that's okay, right? And it's not okay to be like thinking that $180 for one chase card is a decent price, but really, like in comparison to the market, it kind of is. Moving on to the Zekrom Special Illustration Rare, selling for $245, right now selling for $215. No massive price drops, a little bit cheaper, a little bit more affordable, but definitely still a very expensive card. Still, the Reshiram is a fair bit cheaper than the Zekrom, though again, Zekrom has a bit of hype around it because this Zekrom Special Illustration Rare is illustrated by Dan Chow, and Dan Chow, he also created the Charizard SIR and the Mega Gengar EX from Mega Dream, and Ascended Heroes is also illustrated by Dan Chow. Definitely interesting illustrator, so that might have a little bit to do with the price. Whether or not Zekrom's more preferred than Reshiram, I'm not really sure. I personally prefer Reshiram as a Pokemon. Now, some cool cards here. I've got the Jellicent, okay? So it was selling for $37. It's had a pretty big price drop. It was, pre-released for $71. Right now selling for $31. I feel like there's a lot of special illustration rares in the Scarlet Violet era that are like a little bit more attainable than a lot of people kind of expected, especially Temporal Forces SIRs. Not the top chase cards, but there is a lot of special illustration rares that are a little bit more attainable than a lot of people realize. But you also have to remember, it also depends on how popular the Pokemon is too. Now moving on to the Genesect Special Illustration Rare. Was selling for $63 US, right now selling for $51. Pull this into the 6 months and you can see was selling for $71 as well. Top of the market, $78. Right now, $50. This is a pretty cool SIR. I really rate it. Though $50 is still an expensive card, though like the amount of chase cards that are coming out, or high rarity cards as well, is getting hard to keep up with. And another interesting one, the Excadrill Special Illustration Rare, currently selling for $23. If I pull this into the 6 months, this card, pre-release was selling for $51, had a bit of a price drop, and now it's a pretty cheap special illustration rare. That's interesting to me because I thought Excadrill is an awesome Pokemon, man. I thought it was so loved. I thought more people really rated Excadrill. Maybe the artwork is slightly too basic for an SIR. That could have a little bit of a thing that's playing out into this card. Mega Evolution, to me, is a little bit disappointing though. But there you go, $23 for a special illustration rare. One of the cheaper SIRs you can get on the market, but I do think the reason for that price point is maybe the artwork isn't that exciting for an SIR. But honestly, there's a lot of buying opportunities for not the biggest chase cards at the moment. In terms of your massive top chase cards, you're still forking out a huge amount of money. It's something you need to consider. But in terms of these other cards, there definitely is opportunities kind of building slowly in the background, which is super cool to see. Though I do think the hobby is moving quick, and I think 2026 will reveal more key information that we all need to be aware of. And I actually think that 2026 will be one of the biggest years in history for Pokemon investing, and the reason for that is all seen in this video here. In this video that's appearing on screen right now, I go deep into the reason why 2026 will be such a big year for Pokemon cards. Click the video that's appearing on screen right now, learn about that topic there, and I'll see you on the next video.